This week's episode of Trek Geeks is brought to you by Fansets, the place for amazing pin collectibles. They have close to 200 officially licensed Star Trek pins to choose from, with new pins coming out every month. See all the pins and collectibles they have to offer at fansets.com, and stay tuned for this week's special Trek Geeks discount code. Fansets. We are Star Trek.
Hi, this is Michelle Specht. I play Dr. Elise McKenna on Star Trek Continues. Oh my God, I'm totally fangirling right now because I just met Dan Davidson and Bill Smith of the Trek Geeks podcast. Oh my gosh, they are amazing.
From Shuttle Bay 47 at Podfleet Command, awaiting our departure to fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. It's the biggest little show this side of the Alpha Quadrant and the flagship of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network. Greetings, one and all. Welcome to Trek Geeks. I'm your co-host, Bill Smith. So glad to have you here for our pre-Star Trek Las Vegas episode. This has become an episode that we just love to do because it means we're getting ready to head out to the biggest gathering of Star Trek fans in North America. It's always very exciting, and we just can't wait to get going and see everybody. Of course, by we, I do mean my co-host and I. If he were a Thrall, I would not bet any Quatloos on him. In fact, nobody would bet any Quatloos on him. He's the last kid picked in everything, including space. He's the he's the largely underachieving and cannon fodder like Dan Davidson. Dan, buddy, we're almost to Vegas.
Oh, so you're changing the subject from what you just said to now we're going to Vegas. Okay, great. Yeah, I can't wait to get there with you.
It just means you're a lover and not a fighter.
Oh, well, that is true. And you would, I think you would pick me before somebody else, wouldn't you?
Who's available?
I don't know. Captain Pike?
No, I picked Captain Pike. in the wheelchair.
That's what I was talking about. So, yeah, okay, great. Yeah. Wow, that was harsh. That was very harsh. But it's great to be here as always. Yeah, in less than 48 hours as we record right now, we're going to be on a plane, heading out to the desert. Cannot wait. It's the trip that we look forward to every single year to reunite with all our Trek family and have a great time out at STLV. And you know, Vegas is a place for gambling if you're into that kind of thing. And so every year now, for the past few years, we've decided to do a Vegas-ish, Vegas-y, Vegas-like type of episode before we head out to STLV. So what better than Gamesters of Triskelion to deep dive into? Because there's gambling, there's Quatloos, there's, possible death, and it probably happens in Vegas too. So here we are.
As long as we don't become a CSI experiment, I think we're doing pretty well. Interesting factoid. So last year at this time, what episode did we do?
We did Piece of the Action last year.
That's
didn't we?
correct. And that is Season 2, Episode 17. You know which episode came before it directly in Star Trek's schedule?
I'm going to say Gamesters of Triskelion.
Yes, it did. I think that's pretty funny that the episode that we've chosen each year, the last 2 years to go to Vegas, actually were back-to-back on the schedule. We just did them in reverse order.
That is kind of funny. I like it. And I also like the fact that we did Piece of the Action last year for this Vegas one. And this year, as we'll talk about later during the Fanset spot, the poker chip is from a Piece of the Action.
We really messed that up. God.
We did, yeah. Well, that's what happens when you miss staff meetings, Doctor.
Very nicely done. Well, for once, you're actually knocking it out of the park. It's because you're going to be on a plane soon.
Yes.
Although in close quarters with me, so be careful.
Absolutely.
Dan, how might people give us their well wishes, their questions about Vegas, and other musings as we prepare to head to the airport?
Well, as always, it is so easy to get in touch with us, Bill. Just head on over to trekgeeks.com/contact, and there you'll find a variety of ways to get in touch with either Bill or myself. You can leave us a voicemail, you can Skype chat us, you can fill out that contact form and type us out a personalized message, or you can even click on that big, giant blue button on the right side of the website and leave us a message with your very own mellifluous tones using SpeakPipe. And hey, don't forget, the place to be on Facebook these days is the official Trek Geeks Facebook group, Camp Kittimer. Bring your Trek talk, your Trek pics, and your Trek love over to the site and join over 1,400 other friends talking all things Trek, and this week, all things STLV. It is the place on social media where the Trek talk is positive with no bashing or gatekeeping allowed. Plus, if there are new announcements about the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, you're going to hear about it first in Camp Kittimer before anyone else in the quadrant. To join the group, head on over to facebook.com/groups/Camp Kittimer and be ready to be part of a truly wonderful social experience. And as always, we want to thank our wonderful admins Haley, Jackie, and Dan for the amazing job they do running the camp. But please remember that any comments or messages you leave us in any of these places may be used in a future episode, or there may be punishment.
Whoa. Since when is that on the table?
It's collars of obedience. That's the way it is.
The providers want to have a conversation with you.
The providers told me to say that.
I find that hard to believe.
I would turn your collar of obedience on and just walk away.
I'm not surprised by this revelation. Dan, it's time for the news from TrekNews.net. Spanning the Alpha Quadrant. For all the news on all the Star Treks, yo.
Bill.
It's TrekNews.net.
Bill.
What did you say just then? Oh, okay. At first it sounded like 9/11.
What?
I'm like, where did that come from?
Wow.
Online at TrekNews.net. Don't mind us. We're both stone cold sober. Dan, up first, unfortunately, we have some sad news to report regarding a very special guest star in Star Trek The Next Generation several years ago.
Yes, absolutely sad. And, I got to say, Bill, we seem to be doing this a lot lately, and it really is just not easy to do. Actor Jeremy Kemp, who played Jean-Luc's brother Robert in the TNG Season 4 episode Family, passed away last week at the age of 84. Mr. Kemp's career spanned over 3 decades in film and television, but Trek fans will always remember him for that very special role of that cantankerous older brother who helped Jean-Luc finally deal with the trauma of being assimilated by the Borg. It's a great episode. I really thought it was too bad that they killed him off in Generations. We here at Trek Geeks offer our condolences, of course, to his family, his friends, and his fans.
Without a doubt. Family is one of my all-time favorite episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. And that dynamic between Patrick Stewart and Jeremy Kemp is just tremendous. You get the sense that they truly were brothers from the get-go. Mm-hmm. It doesn't just seem like some guy they hired to be Picard's brother. He literally seems like Robert Picard. And it was delightful all around.
It was.
It's a timeless story, and certainly he will be missed for sure.
One of the things I liked best about that episode is you can tell that they're brothers. And like you said, it was like they're brothers for real. At the end, when they hug, and then he just kind of like pushes away with that face as he's saying goodbye. It's kind of like, yeah, we're done hugging. Go away now, brother. But it really is a great episode. It was good to see that side of Jean-Luc, because we never saw the family. He's a very private guy. And Jeremy did just a fantastic job with that role. Going to be missed.
Absolutely. Also, Dan, on a happier note, it appears that questions regarding the future of Star Trek Las Vegas have been answered, at least for next year.
Yeah, this is some great news here, man. We don't like to report on rumor and speculation here on the network, but it was no secret that there had been some concern lately on the future of STLV. For one thing, there had been talk for a long time about how the Rio was not going to be available any longer and possibly being torn down, and rumors about a MLB stadium were out there and so forth. And especially with the parent company, Caesars, having been sold, we weren't really sure what was going on. And also up in the air was the contract with Creation over the convention itself. But earlier this week, it was reported that STLV 2020 will, in fact, be held at the Rio and will be held from August 5th through August 9th of 2020. So it looks like for at least one more year, buddy, the family reunion in the desert will continue. I am ecstatic. I am excited. I will be going, and so will you.
Well, absolutely be going. I can't wait. Although I'm going to hope we stay somewhere else other than the Rio.
I think we could. I think that you could talk me into that.
Okay, I think that'll be good. No, I appreciate that the Rio has really done a great job with the convention space. I will say, for all the faults the Rio has as a hotel, their convention space really is laid out fantastically for Star Trek Las Vegas, and the main theater is gargantuan. It
Huge.
was not. Yeah, it was not that big at the Hilton.
Yeah, I never saw it at the Hilton, but it's. I mean, I'm in awe. The first time I walked in there, I was like, "Oh my god, this place is gigantic."
Isn't it overwhelming?
Yeah.
And then you all of a sudden get happy little goosebumps because you're like, this room is filled with people who love this same thing that I love, and you've got 3,000-4,000 friends there that you just haven't met yet. That's really the beauty of that room.
Yeah, it really is amazing. And even as large as the room is, it doesn't matter if you've got captain's chair, ambassador, whatever the top ones are where you're right in front. If you're in the very last row or even further back standing up, you can see everything because they got giant monitors everywhere. And you never feel like you're being left out when you're in that room, no matter what the size.
You do. It's really conducive to dealing with your Bassin Coleridge. So I think for anyone interested, next year is Voyager 25. It's going to be a huge anniversary year for Star Trek Voyager. Lots of Voyager in the house. There will be some special products for Voyager 25, we know. But if you've ever been on the fence about going to Star Trek Las Vegas and you're not going this year, next year is going to be fantastic, I have to say.
Make it so.
Well, Dan, as always, we want to thank our friends at Fansets for sponsoring this week's show. And in a couple of days, we're going to get to do that in person when we see them in their giant booth at Star Trek Las Vegas, something we're always happy about. Of course, as Nero would say, the wait is over. And in just hours from now, when this episode is available, we're going to be arriving in Las Vegas to reunite with them and see all the amazing releases they have for STLV 2019.
All the amazing releases. There are so many new pins that we're actually going to list them all here right now. So people heading out to STLV can head to their local ATM, loan officer, or whatever it is they need to do because they want to get some cash because they're going to want to have all of these beauties. Of course, the Women of Trek framed collector's set will be consisting of Uhura, Captain Janeway, T'Pol, Beverly Crusher, Deanna Troi, Kira Nerys, Michael Burnham, the Borg Queen, and Edith Keeler. And also an STLV exclusive Uhura pin will be available for this collection. And all of these pins in this collection, if you buy them in Vegas, will be glitterized, which I just love, and they look amazing. Additionally, 2 new Trek Tech pins, the TNG phaser rifle and the Klingon Batleth, will make their debut. Also, the half Locutus, half Jean-Luc pin, which I think is my favorite of all of these, will be available. And also, the first 4 episodic pins for the second season of Star Trek Discovery will be available to add to your collection. Rumor has it also that the Star Trek Picard logo pin that was seen at San Diego Comic-Con last weekend will be available at the Fansets booth in Vegas. And finally, the now famous annual STLV poker chip pin will be on site, and this year it features Gangster Kirk from A Piece of the Action. You got all that, Billy?
Yeah, don't call me that.
I know, you hate that.
I can tell you that I'm going to be bringing bankruptcy paperwork with me to start the process early because that's a lot of pins, and I'm going to own them all.
There
and
you
they're
go.
all worth every single last penny. In the meantime, EOEO... EO11. But as always, as a special bonus to Trek Geeks listeners, if you would like to receive 15% off your entire order at fansets.com this week, that's pins, that's accessories, that's whatever you can put in your cart, not even just Star Trek stuff, anything at fansets.com. You're going to get 15% off your entire order if you use the word GALT, G-A-L-T, at checkout. All capital letters, no spaces, G-A-L-T. Now, this bonus code is going to be available for an extended time because Fansets is awesome, and it's good up through Tuesday, August 13th, 2019 at midnight Eastern Daylight Time.
That's a great code word.
I wonder why you picked that one.
I have really no idea. But one thing I did want to talk about, Bill, real quick, while we're talking about Fansets and how much we love them, is this Women of Trek series is going to be an ongoing collection. This first set that's going to be available in Vegas is, like I said, just the first set of pins. They're going to be releasing upwards of 50 pins over the next year or so depicting all of the amazing women in the Star Trek universe. We've seen a lot of discussion about why didn't you pick this person or why didn't you pick that person? Well, contracts and choices are made, and the pins that are coming out in this first set are absolutely gorgeous. Everybody should love them, and there will be a lot more coming out over the course of the next year.
Well, and let's be honest, CBS told them that they had to include X percentage of things. So there had to be so many from each series. There had to be a guest star. And there had to be I don't know if it was a villain specifically, but that's part of the reason why the Borg Queen is in there. So that's how Edith Keeler made the set. That's how other characters like Dax are not yet in the set. But this set is going to span multiple years. And like you said, over 50 pins. So at some point, those characters are going to happen. It's just not this summer.
Right.
So that's really the important thing that we want to drive home.
Yeah, and also additionally, we're going to have something on social media after Vegas where people are going to be able to vote for who they want to see as a pin. So these people who go in and vote may actually set the course for the Women of Trek pin collection by having a special one created. So that is very cool.
Without a doubt. I mean, I think ultimately all of these pins are going to be pins that people want to see and own. I'm excited for this set. I think this has been a long time coming, and I'm excited that I'm going to start this collection this year. It's going to be pretty exciting.
Fansets. We are Star Trek, and we thank our friends at Fansets for sponsoring this week's episode.
So, Dan, as we move into the main body of this week's episode, we're going to talk about the TOS classic episode, The Gamesters of Triskelion. Now, I don't know how long it's been since you've watched this one before reviewing it for this particular recording, but I got to tell you, I hadn't watched it in some time. This is an episode I used to love. And I'm going to say right off the bat, we like this episode. You know, we don't hate this episode. But this is a great example of a classic episode which has a lot of problems, but yet we still love watching it.
I watched this episode a lot, to be honest with you, man. I probably have seen this episode maybe upwards of the same amount of times that I've seen like Doomsday Machine or Corbomite Maneuver. It's not my favorite episode, but I just love it. Of course, as everybody knows by now, I love the character of Galt. He's my favorite TOS villain, if you even want to call him a villain. But I just love the episode. It's campy. It's got some good stuff in it. It's got some bad stuff in it. But it's one that I just always, it's enjoyable. It's fun to watch, even with all the quirkiness that it can have in it.
That's really kind of you to say quirkiness. Because there are things that aren't quirky. They're just, they're not great. We're going to talk a little bit about plot and some of those things. But right off the bat, I want to say that the fight choreography in this episode leaves a lot to be desired. None of it is believable. And I'm going to speak specifically about Shayna and Kirk and their fight, especially the one at the end. I don't believe that she gets a one-up on the captain at any point. It just seemed at that point where they linger for a little too long and she nails him in the head with the giant can opener.
The can opener.
Because that's what it looks like. It looks like a giant can opener.
Yeah.
None of that is remotely believable. And of course, they're playing the Amok Time fight music behind it.
Yes, they are.
And I expect there to be like some real fighting going on. But it's not fantastic.
No, it's not. And then that same fight, and it's funny. I think Sue actually said something when we were watching the other night. They're like staring at each other. He's got the knife up to her chin, and they're just staring at each other for like 3 or 4 seconds. And she's like, "Are they going to do anything?" And then boom, with a can opener. That's funny. I really like that. But then right after that, it's the whole twisting of the Kirk's feet and legs to try to get her to fall, and that it's absolutely barely any contact at all, but yet she fall. And also, I gotta ask right off the bat, I know I'm jumping around, but one of the worst parts of this episode, when he is fighting Klug and jumps on his back to choke him, his hands are down like around his chest, choking him, and it's like, really? But that's okay, it's still fun.
Now, I got to say that, before that really last big fight where, he's made the wager with the providers, if he wins, they get to go free, that deal. They say, well, you got to stay in your own color, because if you step on any of the other colors, you lose, people lose a weapon. And everybody steps all over the colors and nobody loses weapons. Yes. So it's like, if they hadn't called it out, I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then that's all I could see.
And it's another thing. Sue's very observant. She's like, are they going to step on their own colors? Because they're in everybody else's colors. That's pretty funny. And I think it's funny. I know we're making jokes about stuff right now as we get started, but I love how the Triskelion logo on the ground is greenish and yellow, but yet Galt's on his uniform is bright blue and yellow. And I thought that was kind of interesting that the colors change depending on what room you're in.
I wonder if that was some consideration for the way it looked in the shot, when they were filming. Who knows? Yeah. Or maybe it was accidentally color corrected, like some of the test shots of,
it could have been,
Spock was. Who knows? Mm-hmm. One of the things that interests me most about the background information regarding this episode is originally Chekhov wasn't supposed to be in it.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be Sulu. And when I think about this, honestly, it works for either character, but I think I would have been a little more interested to have Sulu in that spot. And that could have something to do with the fact that I'm just not a Chekhov fan. I don't know.
Oh, I think that's exactly the reason.
Okay, that's fair.
I got to agree with that. I got to say, in terms of watching Sulu and watching Chekhov or George and oh my God, I need another drink.
Nichelle?
No, Chekhov.
Walter.
Walter, thank you. Jeez. During the entire run of the series, I think George is a better actor. So I think it would have been interesting to see how it went, because this episode is not one of Walter's shining moments in the acting category, especially when the collar's going off on him.
Well, one of my favorite things happens in this episode because Chekhov gets the paste beaten out of him a couple of times, and I'm all for that. And I texted this to you today. So I'm watching Gamesters of Triskelion, and I happen to hit the pause at the right time. And when the collar goes off the first time and Chekhov hits the ground, the camera kind of comes over to him, and you see this blue object in frame. And when you pause it, it looks either like an igloo cooler or a toolbox that's not supposed to be there. Wow. And it's on Netflix. You can see it there. I'm sure it's in all the DVDs. But I'm watching it going, the heck is that?
That's funny.
I had no idea, but nothing made me happier than seeing Chekhov writhing on the ground.
There are some things that I really love about this episode, but while we're on it, why don't we just talk about all the weird things that happen that just like make the episode really not as good as it could be? Like the fact that when they first get transported, quote unquote, to the planet, when they get up, Kirk's communicator is open on his back.
It is. At first I thought it was broken.
Yes. Yep. And he throws, okay, Kirk, fisticuffs, big mean Kirk, who's going to punch you in the jaw to get his message across, throws his phaser at Lars instead of going up and fighting him. And that actually comes into play later because he mentions that later in the episode, that they need to find the phaser that he threw at Lars. Well, maybe you shouldn't have thrown it at him, dummy.
There's not a lot to this episode, to be honest. Story-wise, it's not necessarily one that makes you think of a whole lot of weightiness, other than slavery is bad.
Yeah.
But when you back up to the start of this episode, clearly it's an unsettling situation for the landing party because they've been snatched off the transporter pad and nobody knows what's going on, only to find themselves enslaved by this race of people that essentially I have to think they're putting together gladiator games of some sort because we never see the games. We just see the training.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I got to say that I think the providers and Galt as the Master Thrall really have a lot of faith in what they think these three crew members are going to do because they have to go through training to become full-fledged Thralls, but they were only there for about 4 hours before they decided to sell them.
Yeah, and that's like, well, it makes me wonder how much training the Thralls normally go through. They really had to be the best of the bunch because, well, due to their Starfleet training, because like you said, they get sold just a couple hours later.
Yeah, and I don't think I really noticed that until I watched it a couple of times this week getting ready to record this episode. That's like, wait a minute. The Enterprise is talking about how they've only been missing for a few hours, yet the providers just spent Quatloos to make them full-fledged Thralls, and they only had one training session. And they tried to escape like twice. Wow, they're really good. Let's buy them.
Well, honestly, Kirk is the only one who's good because Uhura and Chekhov are just outmatched.
I'll tell you what, though. Uhura had to fight 2 Thralls at the beginning. And that didn't have to happen with anybody else. And, of course, the big Klug was just holding on to Chekhov around his waist, and Chekhov was just like hanging there.
It almost struck me as, the way the 1966 Batman series went, where they get into a fight and be all the Biff Bow Pam stuff, or Biff Bam Pow, whatever it was. Yeah. And Batman would always be fighting somebody off, and Robin would be being held captive by somebody. Chekhov kind of played the Robin role.
Yes, he did.
In this episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Galt strikes me as an interesting character. I don't believe he's a villain. I don't believe he's a villain at all.
I say villain, but he is the bad guy in this episode that is the main thing that the crew has to fight in order to not get killed or not be, slaves for the rest of their lives. But no, I don't think of him as a villain, but he's so great.
He's doling out punishments because he's the guy that's supposed to train these people. Now, who knows what, directives he's under or whether or not this means his life. I have to assume on some level it does. He has to deliver people to the arena or else, he gets, dead is what I'm thinking.
Well, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Well, it just, it seemed the simplest way. So I'm not really sure exactly what Galt's motivations are, but I don't think that takes away from the story at all.
No, I don't think so either. I love that shroud of mystery that's in regard that he has. You don't know what race he is. He obviously has a lot of power over everybody who's there. He is the master thrall of the whole planet, according to his title. And he has no problem just appearing whenever he wants to get into a situation, as we saw when Kirk and Shayna were out in the ruins of where Kirk thought the providers might have once lived when they were on the surface. So I find him a very interesting character because of that mysteriousness. And he's just balls to the wall awesome. I just think he's great.
Well, this is another time in Star Trek where we have sort of in a way, a godlike set of beings of sorts that have evolved past corporeal form and are essentially just disembodied brains. It's a trope that Star Trek comes back to many times throughout the years. But I think it's one that's done pretty effectively in this episode, even if the brains kind of look like jelly molds.
Yes.
Set that aside for a second. When you think about what's going on and what these people have evolved into out of their own greed, essentially, I think it makes an interesting statement, at least to that regard.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. And it's funny that you say the jelly mode and that they kind of like pulse, which is also kind of interesting. One of the voices of the providers, of course, being Jimmy Doohan, for those who may not have known. And the other being Robert Johnson, who was the voice for Mission Impossible for so many years back in the 60s, which is kind of cool. Robert Johnson, interesting. That's the name of the guy in Deadly Years.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool, too. I love how these creatures have evolved to the point where they don't have bodies and they can snatch people from anywhere and they have all this power over the people on this planet. Yet, all they want to do is gamble.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting. And Kirk actually talks about how they're not as evolved as they think they are because they have to keep people as basically slaves for their enjoyment. But it is interesting that a species that has developed to the point where they have nothing else to do but do what they're doing here on this planet is an interesting one to think about if you really wanted to spend time really delving into it.
No, I agree with you. I think it would be interesting to hear some of the backstories of that and how they evolved and the things that exactly went wrong. It makes you wonder how that sort of, converts to modern day Earth on some level, and the parallels it draws from our society. You have to think that given some of their challenges and their avarice, that it was, in some ways, we're probably bound to be bodiless brains in a serving container, essentially. And a buffet. Yeah, the brain buffet.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the interesting scenes to me, and one that I am amazed made it on television, is when all the Thralls are in their cells, and of course by Thralls I mean our intrepid crew.
Yes.
And Lars goes into Uhura's quarters.
Yep.
And there is absolutely a struggle. There's some screaming. We're left to presume that he is attempting to force himself upon her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really kind of stunned that much was allowed to happen without showing anything as far as the struggle on 60s network television.
Right. You did see some shadows. They did some subtle shadowing with that. The dubbing of Uhura screaming was not really well done, I don't think. Every time I listen to that scene, the screams are just odd to me. But yeah, you're right. How that was able to get through back in the 60s, because it's obvious what he was attempting to do, and he says that it is not allowed to refuse selection. And they talk about what's going to happen if people are selected for each other. Chekhov's drill Thrall hopes that it'll happen, and she obviously has an affection for him. You certainly see that with Shayna and Kirk. So, yeah, that was it was interesting that went as far as it did, to the point that we saw and heard what we did.
Well, and in the next scene, when they come back from commercial after Kirk screams, apparently the wrong name, he calls her Uhura.
Uhura.
Lieutenant Uhura! You come back, I mean, her uniform isn't, ripped. She doesn't suffer what appear to be any bruises. She's not, doesn't appear to be injured, but clearly something went on.
Yeah.
She did refuse, and like you said, she wasn't allowed to. But not a great situation, and I can imagine how powerless and helpless Kirk felt.
The thing that I found interesting about that, when Lars left the cell and walked away, the doors closed, she had the water jug in her hand, like she was probably trying to beat him off with it. And she had her green earring. That always shows up. The green earring was right there. I saw that more than anything else, I think. But there was nothing ever really said after that. Did she get punished for it? Was Lars not going to be specifically her trainer anymore? That type of thing. I mean, you could get into all kinds of different storylines with it. But yeah, it's a very interesting part. On the same note, it was interesting how it was handled so differently when the female Thrall Tamoon was talking to Chekhov. Vastly different.
Vastly different.
And I also found it interesting that she had not been selected for him yet, but apparently Lars had, or was he just saying that?
That's a great question. I caught that too, and I'm not really sure as to the answer. When Tamoon does come into his quarters, it's obvious that Chekhov looks uncomfortable. He in no way wants to be that close to her regardless. And then she opens her mouth, and she's got a voice that's deeper than mine.
Yes, that's what kind of you missed.
Chikov.
Here's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever seen that race in Star Trek before or since. What race was she?
No idea. Well, I asked the same question about Galt because, as a kid on a 1970s television, his makeup looked kind of whitish.
Yep.
But in high def, it almost looks kind of spackled on.
Yes, exactly.
Which I thought was really interesting. I didn't really have that perspective before. So I'd love to know what race they all are.
Yeah.
Lars could be...
Looks human.
Human of some kind.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not. Who knows? Yeah. I think it would have been neat if they'd made him something other than human. And Klug is just a caveman, apparently.
It's your family. Also,
Whoa.
we saw an Andorian. I'm sorry, what?
My family?
I jest. It was interesting that they just kind of threw in the Andorian at the end of the episode.
Yeah, I thought that was really kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
Where's he been?
Yeah, I know. Right.
And if it's their job to train the Thralls, are they the only Thralls there?
Yeah, that's a big planet. There's only 6 Thralls that we've seen.
This was an episode that I get the sense could have been so much bigger. But because budgeting and whatever else, it was so much smaller. It felt big based on the set.
Yep.
Which had obvious, set pieces reused. I get that. It's TV. It's going to happen. But I felt like that it was on the verge of being something truly epic, but never quite got there.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I enjoy the episode so much, but it's not one of my favorites, if that makes any sense at all. Yeah. It's a fun episode to watch, but there are lots of issues with it. One thing that we haven't talked about, Bill, is the other side of this whole episode.
I was just going there.
The side on the Enterprise. Those scenes are fantastic. There. Yeah, so let's talk about that.
They are, but they're not. So here's the thing. Spock is left in command of the Enterprise, obviously, because he's the first officer. And there are multiple times where we expect this from McCoy. But for Scotty to openly challenge Spock on the bridge and say, well, I could give you Warp 7, but I really think we've already wasted our time so far. That's just one, it's un-Scotty-like. 2, they're almost making him as malleable as Bones. And 3, I didn't believe from either Scotty or McCoy that they were being true to their characters as far as, we got to find the captain.
Okay, I can agree with that. What I liked about it, what I said they were fantastic, is we got some of the best Spock McCoy butting heads with McCoy's sarcasm. You pointy-eared or you green-blooded, all those things. They really shine in this, and you get the. Larry Nemechek will love this. You get the perfect McCoy hopping on his toes because he's frustrated in this episode. And you get the eyebrow raise and him talking to himself. And I really think that this is one of the great McCoy-isms episode that we've seen in TOS. So maybe that's why I like it so much, because it's so McCoy being brash and cantankerous.
I can agree with that. I also think Spock is slightly out of character here because he's not necessarily always that literal or rigid, especially at this point in season 2. Mm-hmm. When he starts, when Scotty says, they just disappeared off the pad, and he's like, I assume you mean in a manner not consistent with the use of the transporter. I'm like going, really, dude?
Of course, you think I would have called if he just beamed down.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But there are other, when Spock essentially throws out the mutiny card, and I think it's the 3rd or 4th act, completely justified. Yeah. Because at that point, both Scotty and McCoy are like, dude. And Spock's like, really? We're going to go there.
Yeah.
Although I appreciate how Spock uses the available evidence to form a hypothesis and then pursue it. Even if it is something as nonsensical as them being beamed 12 light years away from where they were by something they've never seen before.
This is a perfect example of Spock as a Vulcan using logic instead of emotion to come up with a course of action. And as way out in left field as it is, he doesn't let the fact that it's way out in left field stop him from putting together the information and the data that he has to come up with that plan. And on that note, one of the things that was hilarious about this episode and the scenes on the Enterprise is there's a woman working helm and working the science station and working communications I've never seen before. I can't remember what her name is, but at one point she's like, Mr. Spock, we've seen that the habitat of the hydrogen cloud is habitat. So they're all gathering at the science station, and she walks away. And Sue's like, where's she going? It was hysterical. And I love watching these episodes with my wife when we're doing deep dives because we get some good, different views about what's going on in the episode.
Oh, without a doubt. And this is another episode where, we get to use the device of the crew aboard the ship getting to watch what's going on. Because the providers have tuned in their cable channel to the Enterprise view screen.
Yep.
And they see it from, the cameras on the surface. Because, we will allow it, your crew will be able to watch because you're fighting on their behalf. I'm like, really? Really? Come on.
And then when Spock and McCoy and Scotty are talking, they're like, they've got like big loudspeakers set up on Triskelion so that they can hear him without any problem. And Kirk's always looking up at him. What you're hearing, gentlemen, is Triskelion.
So I want to talk a little bit about the scenes between Kirk and Shayna. Mm-hmm. And there's the scene where they go running.
Yes.
Behind those ruins or whatever they were. And this is the same scene that spawned the Lady Gaga meme that 5-year mission started.
Yes.
And we give credit to them right away because that was one of their memes first, and it was spot on.
It is.
Shayna really does look like Lady Gaga, or Lady Gaga really does look like Shayna.
I like how you call her Shayna.
You be the judge.
Yeah. I like how you call her Shayna.
But there's two different parts in the episode where she's called Shayna and Shauna.
Yes. Yep.
But
I've always gone with Shauna.
Yeah, I actually go back and forth. So, when she and Kirk run up behind those ruins, and Kirk's like, whoa, slow down. I'm like, dude, she wasn't even jogging. She was like barely walking.
We covered nearly 2 miles. Can we take a breather? A rest? Yeah.
It strikes me as, well, let me back up. I know that Kirk has to do the Kirk thing and try to get on the woman's side by being Kirk. Yep. All right. And we all know what being Kirk means, and I'm using air quotes. But there's really no sense of this that I get any believability from.
No.
There are aspects of this that tie back to several TOS episodes where Kirk either gets the girl or has to explain to somebody what love is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know.
And it's not... By the time it doesn't play well here, and by the time you get to the final fight between them, it's totally unbelievable.
I gotta say, I don't want to sound like a pig, and I don't want to sound sexist, but there's one scene in this that I just think is hysterical, and it's that same scene, and it's when Kirk is like, and around them are planets. Right before he does that, he walks up to Shauna, and Shauna backs right up into him. And it's like, whoa, what are you doing? And that really struck me as funny because of the idea that she doesn't know what love is, and she only knows that mates are for, increasing the herd and this and that and the other thing. So the way that and for people who haven't watched the episode, go back and watch that scene. When he walks up to her and she backs right into him, the look on her face, she knows exactly what she's doing.
There is some subtext here that is really kind of surprising for 60s television.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that other shows didn't do it at the time, but the fact that they got away with some of the things they got away with in this episode, knowing what first season was like in dealing with NBC, I'm really kind of surprised by some of it, including that aspect of that scene. I'll agree with that.
Or possibly after that scene, when they're back in Kirk's cell and she brings dinner or nourishment and goes to turn away, and Kirk's like, "You're bothered by what happened," and she's like, "Yes," and they kiss, and he punches her dead in the face. That is just like, wow, how did that even get through? That's another one of those wow moments.
Yeah, it's not a good visual.
It's not a good punch, for one thing, because first of all, he misses her, and second of all, she goes in the opposite direction of the punch instead of with the punch, which is interesting.
It's as bad as some of the fight scenes in The Godfather. I mean, you've seen The Godfather before.
Oh, yeah.
The scene where Sonny Corleone is beating the crap out of the guy in the street, out of his sister's husband, I think it is. And there are angles which he misses him by a country mile, and you can see it that he never connects, and the guy goes flying. That's what that punch was like. It's not great. I mean, TOS takes its knocks for its sexism of the time.
Yes.
Deservedly so.
Yep.
It is a product of its era. That doesn't mean it gets a pass.
Yep.
But that is a scene that is particularly troublesome, even from today's viewpoint.
I would agree with that. Yeah, absolutely.
It was then. It certainly is now.
And I can't help, we sit here and laugh, and just because it's like, really, that's a great kiss, and then bam. But the look on her face after the kiss, she's like, I'm starting to feel what look, and she's down for the count. And, and you know what? It wasn't that strong a punch either.
So let's talk about that final fight again for a minute. So Kirk has to fight off 3 Thralls.
Yep.
And does.
Yep.
He takes out 2, and one of the other Thralls takes out 1. If the count is right. And then it turns out he's got to fight a 4th Thrall, which wasn't part of the original bargain.
Yeah.
And that's Shayna.
Well, that's because the rules were if an opponent is not killed and only injured, they are substituted with a new Thrall. So that's what happened with the Andorian who showed up out of nowhere. He got injured. He only got knocked out. He didn't get killed. So that's why Shayna came in. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got to believe Klug is dead. We got to believe Lars is dead because of the Andorian.
2 dead. Yep.
And the Andorian was injured.
Yeah, it was the antenna got knocked off or something.
So Shayna had to go, I'm on deck 5. I'm going to attack by an Andorian.
Security.
Security.
Anyway.
Captain? Captain? So I can... That fight, like we said, not the greatest fight. Mm-hmm. I think it would have been better to have a fight with just Lars and Klug because it was much more believable.
Yes.
Sort of a 2-on-1 scenario. And maybe they didn't have to stay on their own colors, but they had to stay within the ring. And if they went outside the ring, there was something perilous. Like maybe there's a force field that vaporizes them.
Like a river of lava?
Whatever. Some dangerous, mortal element that would have added a next level to that. If I were rewriting the scene, that's what I would have done. And then once Kirk dispenses with one of them and the other one gets hurt, then Shayna comes in.
Okay.
And Kirk has to fight her.
Yeah.
Or else he's going to die.
Right.
And then it becomes a choice of he's got to kill her or he's got to keep fighting. And she's the only one left.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
So he's got to kill her. I think that would have been a much more impactful episode. Or at least ending for the episode, because what we got really just was not exciting or dangerous in any way.
I gotta say, I really like that idea because we've seen the tragedies that Kirk has had to have throughout TOS. With Raina Kopek, we saw how he felt about that, and he only wished he could forget. And of course, Edith Keeler, with having to let her die in order to set history back to its normal timeline. So I really like that idea. You can argue whether or not he really had feelings for her, or was he just trying to get out of the predicament that they were in. I actually lean towards he had feelings for her if I had to choose between the two. So if that type of situation happened and he had to kill her in order for them to be able to be set free, that would have been another great chapter to the Kirk tragedy with people that he cared about storyline.
See, I come down on the other side of that. I think that it would have hurt him to cause her harm, but I don't think he loved her.
I don't think he loved her.
I don't think he cared as deeply about her as he cared about, say, I don't know, Deela.
I was going to just say Deela. I cannot even believe you just did that.
And I picked that one off the top of my head because that's the one I go to. I can believe that Kirk cared about Deela. I don't have that same sense with Shayna.
Okay.
She's not, neither of them are Edith Keeler level. No. Neither of them are Raina Kopek level.
No.
But I can believe that
Miramani.
Miramani. Oh, he loved Miramani, man. I can believe that he cared more about Deela necessarily than Shayna. Because Shayna just wasn't in the long-term plan.
And they only knew each other for like 5 hours, like we talked about.
Right.
So I guess you're right. Okay, forget everything I just said.
Believe me, that's easily done. Wow. So the providers.
Yes.
So these are a group of beings that we've talked about. They're sort of disembodied brains. One has to wonder how they got in the buffet table.
Covered by, may I say, the glass covering the providers was Lazarus's ship from the alternative factor.
It's the best thing from the alternative factor that ever happened was the reuse of that glass.
Yeah.
So somebody had to put their brains there.
Ooh.
Maybe it was, I don't think it was Galt. Somebody had to. So somebody had to take them out of their bodies. Who was it?
It was Jeffrey Combs from Reanimator. You have no idea what I'm
Shut up. No, I do. Just shut up.
Okay, sorry, bad.
But I mean, somebody had to essentially care for the providers up to that point. And we assume that person is gone because the providers are just there. I've got tons of questions with regard to the providers, like how do those disembodied brains live outside the body? Yeah, they've evolved, but I mean, our bodies have blood. Our bodies have all kinds of things that keep those brains going. Oxygen. You don't get oxygen under glass, my friend. So I've got a whole bunch of questions as to how they evolved and what they evolved into. Are they more than just brains?
They are one with the body, first of all.
You waited 30 seconds to say that.
Yes, I agree with all the questions that you have asked. However, it's just one of those, how many other episodes have we come up with, questions that we come up with about things that we've seen. I kind of like the idea possibly, yes, somebody must have had to put them there, but really, did they have to? If they've evolved as much as they have, is it possible that they could have put their own brains in there?
Somebody had to put the last one in.
Well, they just use that, and then they're there. I mean, it's a possibility. I don't know. It's possible. But I mean, I do hear what you're saying. But then again, look at all the things that the Telosians could do with their amazing powers of telepathy and stuff like that. So it's certainly possible that the providers are like that. Now, what I will say, I have not seen this, I have not read it, but I am interested in it. Apparently, there is a comic book series about the Gamesters of Triskelion after the episode.
Really?
I saw when I was doing research for the episode, I was online, and I saw a cover of the comic book. It takes place after this, and it looks like it's more futuristic. I'm going to have to go back and find out what it is and let people know on an upcoming episode about what it is, where you can find it, the title and everything. Because when I saw that, I'm like, oh, I'm getting that. So I'll have to let everybody know. It would be interesting to see if they delve into the providers a little bit more than they did here, because they really didn't do much at all here.
Well, and then my next question is, what do the providers do with money? They have it to wager. They make wagers. It seems like they'll bet on anything. They're kind of like, those degenerate gamblers in Las Vegas or any other city like Atlantic City or wherever you can place bets. Mm-hmm. But once they win, what exactly do they do with the money?
They pay the Ferengi Commerce Authority. Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. They got nothing to do. They can't do anything with what they do, what they win. So it's just a never-ending circle of ridiculousness.
What if the providers are disembodied Ferengi?
Whoa.
Wouldn't that be a neat wrinkle?
Wow. That is a deep, deep take, man.
I didn't think of it till you just talked about the Ferengi just now.
Oh, so it was my idea. Thanks.
Hey, we're going to be in Vegas. I'm going to give you a little bit of credit because you're going to buy me drinks all week long.
Oh, that's true, too. Yeah.
You just admitted it. Thank you.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, I can go with that. I'm going to start writing a novel about that. So
Kirk kind of uses some word foo on the providers and gets them to agree to this wager. Aren't the providers smarter than this?
Yeah. Wait, hear me. We can't talk about things like Quatloos. I mean, it's like, really? Dude, you think that they're that dumb? Oh, yeah, they are. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
It's like they bought Kirk and company 5 hours after they got there. And now Kirk's like, hey, wait a second. I got a deal for you. How about I take on, one of your Thralls, and if I win, I'll go free. And if I were a provider, I'd be sitting there with my brain going, yeah. Okay.
Oh, but they came back. They knew what he was doing. They knew of his trickery and skullduggery because they said, no. You have to go against 3 of the 5 Thralls that we have on this planet.
Yeah. You gotta take out 3. Kirk's going 3. Okay.
So, those aren't very good odds.
I can do that. But don't step on the other colors.
And okay, you know what I would have really liked, speaking of the providers?
What's up?
I'm looking at a picture of them right now. One is very bright red, one is very bright yellow, and one is very bright green. That green one should have been blue for the TOS primary colors.
Yeah.
I really think.
Yeah, I can see that.
I would have liked that.
I love the reuse of the Janus mining colony matte painting for the background there.
Yes. I do like that.
I don't know what the providers need with large storage tanks underground.
That's where the ba machine is.
The what? A neural paralyzer.
Neural paralyzer. I also like the fact that the daggers for Mirror Mirror are used by the drill thralls.
They are, and one of them is absolutely rubber in one scene. You can tell.
That's great. Speaking of which, wicked tangent I'm going off right now.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's a company that's going to be in STLV this week that has Mirror Universe dagger letter openers. I am getting one of those, yo.
Sleep with it under your pillow. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah. But with all of these faults, and this episode does have faults, we love it. I have watched this episode 3 times this weekend, and I laughed and had fun and just enjoyed it like the kid I was when I saw it in the 1970s for the first time each time, because it's Star Trek and it makes me happy. For everything that this episode does wrong, it's still a great hour of watching.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What is your favorite scene in this episode?
Oh, it's got to be when Lars takes the can opener straight to the midsection.
Wow. Okay.
Because the look on his face is just like...
That's a look I wish you had all the time.
I know. That whole fight really is pretty fantastic in that aspect of it. I mean, yes, the choreography is not great, but when people start throwing around can openers like that, it's not going to be pretty.
Wow.
And I think that's pretty good. I like the fact that Kirk gets the chance to essentially put the whole situation on his shoulders and succeed or fail based on his own merit. That's the thing I like the most about that particular scene.
Nice. My favorite scene in this episode is a very subtle one, but every time I see it, I rewind it and watch it again because I love it that much. It's when Kirk and Shayna are leaving the ruins and Galt is standing up on that platform a little bit, and the camera kind of follows them leave, and then it sticks to Galt through the branches of that weird tree, and you just have that ominous music playing as he's staring in their direction with that with the scene with him being in between that tree. I think that's an ingenious piece of cinematography, and I love that scene, and for whatever reason that's my favorite part of this episode, as weird as that may sound.
There are a couple of really great shots in this episode. Unfortunately, they are outnumbered by a whole bunch of shots that are not great. Shots that are either not composed well or not well thought out. I don't know if the director of this episode had ever really done any other episodes of Star Trek before, or what complexities there were in this particular shoot. But there are angles in this that are really weird. That is one of the few scenes, though, where that's not true.
Yeah.
So I have to agree with you about the composition of that shot right there.
I love that, and everybody knows I love Galt, and I can't wait to be doing the cosplay at STLV this week. I love the way that he moves. He glides, those small steps that he takes, and the way that the cloak flows around him. And when he's walking to talk to someone, he walks in a straight line, he does a 90-degree turn, and he faces that person when he talks. That's ominous, and it's scary a little bit to me. And I just think that Joseph Ruskin just crushed it as this character, and he's my favorite. And I am so honored to be playing that character as cosplay this coming week. I cannot wait to do it.
He really did something next level in that episode that was just so simple, but it transcended the screen so well.
Yep.
And dude, you're gonna crush it. You really are. It's gonna look fabulous. I can't wait to see how many people want to take their picture with you. It's gonna be awesome.
It's going to be fun. I can't wait. And it's just a testament to, what we love so much. Everybody has their favorite characters. Everybody has their ideas of what they want to do in the cosplay that we have seen over the years at STLV has been really inspiring for me to finally do this one. And I had some help from some great people, and help put this together. And I think it's coming along really, really well. And I'm nervous, but I am so excited at the same time. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, buddy, we have the help of some great people every week, and we wish they were going to be in Las Vegas with us.
Yeah.
But they're going to be in our hearts. Of course, I'm speaking of 5-Year Mission, the amazing Star Trek themed band that allows us to use all their music each and every episode. Of course, they have a podcast coming to the Trek Geeks Network later this summer, buddy. So in preparation, we want everyone to head out to 5yearmission.net. Please buy their CDs, show the band some love, because we promise you, we swear on a stack of Quatloos that you are going to become big fans of this band. Their songs make you think about Star Trek episodes in a different way. This is not parody. This is not making fun of Star Trek. They take and write one song for each episode. Sorry, I almost screwed that up.
That's all right.
One song for each episode, and really it is such a wonderful tribute every time it happens. So it's 5yearmission.net. Please go show them some love.
Interesting. Before I talk about my episode this week that I watched, besides Gamesters of Triskelion, you said stack of Quatloos. Mm-hmm. I find that interesting. I've always thought of Quatloos as coins.
You can stack coins.
I know, but you think stack, you think of greens. Greenbacks, green stacks, money, cash. I don't know.
You can stack coins.
All right. Do you ever do it on your elbow? Anyway. Anyway, let's get back to where I was going to talk about.
Please.
Okay. I think it's safe to say, Bill, that pretty much everyone loves the Doctor on Voyager.
Yeah.
Safe to say?
Yeah,
He's a great character. I love his sarcasm throughout the series. I love that he always tried to evolve to be something more than just an emergency medical hologram. Case in point, season 3 episode, he attempts to improve his program by actually including elements of the personalities of the band members that he admires. I don't know if you remember this one. It's a good one. But as always, when it's a holodeck thing, things are bound to go wrong. Things go wrong. He actually forms a second evil personality of himself. I think you know what I'm talking about. There's attempted murder in this episode. B'Elanna is temporarily paralyzed by the Doctor in this evil personality, and all kinds of chaos ensues. But at the end of the episode, as with a lot of them in Voyager, the Doctor's program has returned to normal, and everybody's happy. Check it out. It's a great Voyager Doc episode, Farkling. You will not be disappointed, my friend.
I'm disappointed already.
Knew you were going to say that. I was going to type that out, that you're going to say, I'm disappointed already.
I mean, and it's so sad because it's Fark's favorite Star Trek. No, it's not.
No, it's not. No, but it's a good episode. Farkling.
Farkling.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't forget, you can support the Trek Geeks Network of podcasts by subscribing to bonus content on Patreon. You can get access to exclusive content not available anywhere else. I mean, we've looked. Honestly, Patreon's the only place you're going to find it.
Yeah.
And you can see things like our first annual supporters pin, which is just gorgeous, crafted by our friends at Fansets, and even get raw, unedited audio from all of our podcasts, even those that have yet to join the network, along with a whole bunch of other perks, Dan.
Absolutely. And we want to take a moment now to thank our associate producers for Trek Geeks. We are so grateful for their support. And they include Adam Sanders, Brandon Everidge, Heather Sohn, John Krikorian, Rick Tatro, Trey Womack, Shane Murray, Sean Lynn, Tim Robertson, Tim Serdar, Vikram Bhatt, Greg Rozier, Andy Fark, Kimberly Francis. There was a little pause in there.
I thought maybe your screen had froze. I'm like, what happened?
Sorry about that. Rob Robel and the wonderful and refreshing Brooke Horton.
Well, let's get his name right for at least 1 week. Ron Robel.
Yeah, I haven't typed it. Did I say Ron, didn't I?
No.
Oh, did I say Rob again?
You did say Rob again.
Okay, Ron, whatever the hell your name is, it's Ron right here. I typed it out right, so I just said it wrong because math is hard. But I will say, we looking forward to meeting you in Vegas, so I can apologize in person.
Absolutely, we are. And of course, we also want to thank our Trek Geeks producers for their support. They are Ken Tripp, Casey Shafsky, Charlie Mulvey, Chris Trabuzio, Craig Ewing, Eric Extreme, Jackie and Chris Hackney, Leonel Marchand, Matt McGonigal, Mike Bovia, Harry Michelson, Patrick Escudero, Sean O'Halloran, Peter Craig, Ben Russett, Corey Stone, and the lovely and talented Scott Vachon.
If you'd like to become a producer on the network, get access to the raw audio for Trek Geeks episodes, and have me mispronounce your name, just head on over to patreon.com/TrekGeeks, where subscription levels start as low as $1 a month.
Next week, Dan, we're going to take the week off since we'll be flying back from fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. But the following week, we're going to return to talk about STLV and all the amazing things that happen in the Trek world. And the timing for this topic couldn't be any better.
Yeah, you can say that again, man. Remember when people seemed to be burnt out from Trek and Enterprise was canceled, and then we went years without a movie, and then the Kelvin timeline came along, and then Discovery, and wow. Well, I got to say, right now is the best time in history to be a Star Trek fan, my friend. And next week, we're going to tackle the current state of Star Trek. Pretty simple subject, but we got a lot to talk about. And we're also going to give away, 2 tickets to Trekonderoga at the official Star Trek TOS studio tour. That's all happening next week on Trek Geeks, the flagship podcast for the Trek Geeks Podcast Network.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it and our week in the desert. It should be a great time, and we look forward to telling everybody all about it. Of course, for more great Star Trek discussion, please check out the other member podcasts of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network. So much discussion going on, and we're going to be adding more shows before the year closes out. So there's Trek Geeks, there's Discovering Treks, there's Politreks, there's even more coming, so just you wait. And of course, for all the news on all the Star Trek CO, please visit our great friends at treknews.net. For now, this has been episode number 186 of the Trek Geeks Podcast. We do hope you all live long and prosper.
I am Galt, the Master Coconut. This place is the Trek Geeks Podcast Network. You are to tune in and spend the rest of your lives listening here.
Music for Trek Geeks is provided by 5 Year Mission. They are writing 1 song for each episode of the original series. Download their music at 5yearmission.net. Trek Geeks, a Star Trek podcast, is a production of Coconut Media Works, executive producer Bill Smith. For even more Star Trek discussion, check out Discovering Trek, a Star Trek Discovery companion, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and discoveringtrek.com.
Bing bong!
Bing bong.
That wasn't very Galtish.
I don't have the echo. I wish I had a way to reverb my voice when I'm talking when I'm as Galt, because that would be kind of neat.
I wish you had a way to mute your voice when you were talking so nobody would have to hear you.
Wow. And you just get right into it, right off the bat. You're good. You make things go, jerk. How can I be upset with you? We're less than 48 hours away from being airborne to head down to Las Vegas for a week of fun and frivolity.
It is. We've talked about this before. I mean, this really kind of re-energizes my Star Trek fandom every year.
Right.
You know, seeing so many other people who love the same thing we love, and getting to hang out with them and enjoy that fellowship of Trekdom really just means the world to me. So much more than some of the panels. There were a lot of great panels this year. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But this con fuels me every year. Mm-hmm. It really does.
And, of course, this year, as we've said and we will be saying as we continue forward, this is the best time in the history of Star Trek to be a Star Trek fan with everything that's going on. We've got the Picard series, we've got all these other things, and now we get to enjoy it all at Vegas with all the people that we love to meet and hang out with for that once a year. And it was cool. Jerry Ryan and Jonathan Delarco were named just the other day as being the latest guests. So Picard will weigh heavily in the desert, which is very cool. And I'm hoping something like Pike gets announced, but we'll see. That's your idea, and I'm sticking with it.
I really have to hope. I mean, I won't. I'm not going to be disappointed if they don't. Let's put it that way. I mean, we have such an overflowing, cup of Star Trek right now. Mm-hmm. We are graced with so much that we never had before. There's more Trek coming all the time, and I'm not looking to gift horse in the mouth. So if they don't announce it, I'm not going to be bummed, but I really hope they announce it.
I hope they do too. And I was watching this weekend, there was some people on Twitter posting things. And what do you think of this title? Because I dig it. Star Trek 1701. I think that would be a very cool name for a Pike series.
I don't know if I like it.
I mean, Pike would be good too, of course. But I thought that was kind of different because it's not something we've ever seen before.
It is different. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. That's a great carpool conversation. Is what would they call a Pike series?
Okay. Or
what should they call a Pike series? Even if they announce a name between hither and yon.
Star Trek Wheels.
Wheels? Oh, jeez.
Sorry.
Wow.
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
Beep, beep.
Yeah, that was my bad joke for the day. But I got a Farkism later, so you know it's going to get worse.
It always gets worse.
It does. Yeah. It does. So, how's the weekend? Good stuff going on?
Mostly laundry.
Yeah, they're getting ready, folding it all up, ironing. Yeah.
My back is almost 100%.
Okay, good.
A little stiffer today, but I'm just gonna do what I can in Vegas.
So I'll be able to punch you in the kidney again.
The kidney?
The kidney.
Kidney. That's, yeah.
Kidney.
Help me, Spock.
Kidney.
Help me, Spock. Is that what you do on the Trek Geeks podcast?
Yes, I do. I do a good job podcasting.
It's really weird looking at you with dark facial hair.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So I did the tinting of the beard for Galt last night, and I didn't tell my wife I was going to the bathroom to do that. So I go in the bathroom and I shave my head. I actually tweeted out a picture of me shaving my head, and then I decided to do the beard. And just as I finished, she walked in. And she started a sentence, and she stopped and just went wide-eyed. And I'm like, "Hi," because it's so different. Usually I have the light brown with the white. Now it's black.
Now you look like if you made a tough face, you'd actually look tough. No, that's not tough. You just made it this sort of bug-eyed face. Like now you look like Grumpy Cat.
See, I'm not the type of person to have a mean face. I'm not that kind of person.
In the words of that sage observer of our times, Michael Jackson, I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. He wrote that about me, I think.
Tito, get me a tissue.
Yeah, he didn't write that about me, though.
Jermaine, stop teasing. Wait, that's Eddie Murphy.
That's Eddie. I was going to say, who supposedly I read the other day he's going to do a stand-up routine soon.
He should do something. He's not making money anywhere else.
Like freaking Haunted Mansion, I think, was the last movie that he did that I remember.
Did you see it?
Oh, yeah, it's a Disney movie, so I saw it. Yeah.
Was it any good?
It was okay. The guy who played General Zod is in it, so it can't be that bad.
Terrence Stamp?
Yeah, he's in it. He plays the butler in the mansion.
He's one of my favorite actors of all time. He's just so underrated.
And he's good in this one, too. He's got that voice and the way that he carries himself. I mean, he looks like he's about, 100. But other than that, and that's not a bad thing. But, yeah, I was very happy to see him in that.
Kneel before Zod!
Oh, so good. Nobody will ever be better than him as Zod. I don't even know the name of the guy that played him in the other movies, but
Michael Shannon, and it just wasn't the same.
No. Yeah, this is the kind of coloring that I could use for a General Zod cosplay. Now that I think about it,
it is. I'd love to see you in that outfit. That would be hilarious.
I bet you would.
All right, Turk, you ready to do this?
I'm ready, man.
All right, let's get it going.